What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 44, excuse me, of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and we have a good show upcoming for you guys tonight. Is not only do we cover the Late Pick5 at Keeneland on Friday, we also are going to be looking ahead to 4 Breeders' Cup races. That is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Basically, we're looking ahead at the whole turf division, or the whole sprint division, that being the Turf Sprint, the Breeders' Cup Sprint, the Filly and Mare Sprint, and then also we're going to look ahead to the Juvenile. A little sneak peek for you guys on the Breeders' Cup Power Picks that I will talk about here in a few minutes. Those will be the races that we are covering for you guys. So keep a lookout for that. But real quick, guys, we're just going to get right into it here. If you're brand new here, you find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't subscribed, please go down below the video player and hit subscribe. We are ever growing, and of course, that is the best way to support the channel. So please go subscribe, hit the like button on this video, and then ring the bell so you will not miss a single podcast that comes up on the HHH Racing Podcast channel. Because not to mention, we're approaching Breeders' Cup season very, very fast, and we are going to have it covered like an absolute glove here on the podcast. And we are going to have not only like at least 6 shows covering the 2-day pick 6 each day, look aheads, pre-entries, post draws, anything that you need to be successful this Breeders' Cup, you will find here on the HHH Racing Podcast channel. So be on the lookout for that. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor, as always, is where you find every single audio episode that comes up on the HHH Racing Podcast channel, not only of Bettin N Boozin, but of the Flagship show and every other show that's posted as well. So be on the lookout for that. The normal Power Picks, guys, for a very affordable $15.99 a month, only comes out to $4 a weekend, and you get 2 tracks every Saturday, including ABC grids for pick 5s and pick 4s, spot plays, price plays, anything that, again, you need to be successful during your weekend of horse racing. We got you covered. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast to get into that. So not only that, guys, but I want to bring up real quick here that we have that this will actually probably be the first time we're announcing it on this YouTube channel, but we are covering we not only have Keeneland Power Picks available at HHHRacingPodcast.com, now we have Breeders' Cup Power Picks coming up. So I'm going to bring it up on the screen right now, guys, and you'll see it here. I'm going to bring it full screen. The Breeders' Cup Power Picks tip sheet, only $20, and you'll get both days, both Friday and Saturday, full card analysis, not only just Breeders' Cup races, every single race. Again, only for $20 for the entire weekend. Most outlets are charging upwards of $50 to $100, guys. This is not a deal that you'll get anywhere else, and not a deal that you will get as good information here as you will anywhere else. So please subscribe to the Breeders' Cup Power Picks. Again, that's HHHRacingPodcast.com. And up at the top here, you see Power Picks tip sheet. Click on it, and that is the first thing that pops up, guys. And again, this is what you'll need to be successful all Breeders' Cup long. You will only need the HHH Racing Power Picks tip sheet. So, guys, please go subscribe over there. And thank you to all those that have already subscribed through when we posted it on Twitter. But we're not going to waste your guys' time anymore. We're going to bring it in right here. And we're going to go through Keeneland a little bit quicker today, just being as we have so much to cover. But I'm going to bring in my co-host right now from the East Coast of New Jersey, Patrick Kunsel from Ohio State University, Charlie Freeman, and from University of Kentucky. Apparently, they're throwing a rager outside his apartment right now. Noah Maher, boys, what's going on?
What is it, full break?
No, I don't know what's going on. I had to change locations on you guys, but it'll be all right.
All right.
I will apologize in advance also. Right before I got called on, there were about 3 or 4 instances in a row of the loud motorcycle just blowing by the streets of Columbus. So if it happens, it happens, but we roll with it.
Well, that's classic Ohio State for you.
They must be knowing what's coming on Saturday, so it's like
that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, they know we're rolling over Penn State, so they're already getting ahead of themselves.
Yeah. We'll see when we get there. But guys, real quick, Paul Halloran working on the Power Picks tip sheet for Keeneland on Friday. If you haven't subscribed to that as well, same thing. HHH Racing Podcast.com, and you scroll just below that Breeders' Cup posting that we have, and you'll find the Keeneland Power Picks tip sheet for this weekend and still for next weekend. $15 for the individual weekend. Please go subscribe to that as well. So hopefully, Paul, will give you some good information for that Friday. But boys, like I said, we're not going to waste too much time here. We're going to get right into it. Paul Halloran's here. Richard Alvalar is here. Weekend was great. Thanks so much, Richard, for joining the show, man. Greatly appreciate it. They did. Michigan still has not allowed another team in the red zone. So I'm chilling, and the Bears suck as usual. So I'm just, I went to the Bears game this past Sunday, for those of you that don't know. And
so did I. Awful.
Charlie also did for that. And I don't know about you, Charlie, but pardon my French, the amount of times that I said, why don't we run the fucking ball, came out of my mouth at least 5 times. But that's just, I'll leave it.
No, the 3 screenplays and then deciding to run the football on 3rd and 7 and throw the football when we finally got the run game going on 3rd and 1 is just peak Luke Getsy
run
football.
The ball. I'm telling you, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But Sean Kane,
it's awful.
Sean Kane is also here. Sean, thanks so much for doing the show, man. Paul, this is not Walmart, but it should basically the equivalent of it. But we got better quality stuff than Walmart. Thanks, Paul. But yeah, only $20 for the Breeders' Cup tip sheet. Terry Frank is here, all in for the Breeders' Cup Power Picks. Keeneland Power Picks are fire. Absolutely. I love the fire. Terry, thanks so much, man, for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Paul says, get ready for a Lion invasion, Charlie. I'll see you there after Ohio State drops out of the Breeders' Cup playoff as well. Wow.
Yeah,
the college football playoff.
I actually have a couple friends that go to Penn State that are going to the game.
Oh,
really?
So I would be surprised if there's a lot of Penn State fans there.
I would.
Normally
there's like 3 or 4 in each area of the student section, and most of them, by the 3rd quarter already kind of know it's over. So I mean, we'll see. Maybe they make it.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful for them. I mean, I want a good game. Otherwise, I'll feel regretful that I'm not selling my student tickets that are going for $300 a piece right now.
You can't sell them, Charlie. If we find out that you sold those tickets,
of course not. No, I'll be there. Of course not.
Dude, $300 are going to an Ohio State game? I mean, dude, give me $300. Anyway, Colin Quinn, you're heading to the Breeders' Cup if Shard gets in. Absolutely. Well, I'm heading to the Breeders' Cup regardless, Colin, actually. But if Shard gets in, you bet your ass I will be sitting in that paddock when that comes. But yeah, actually 3 of the 4 of us on this screen are heading to the Breeders' Cup. Anyway, Patrick and Noah are also coming with me, and Charlie, of course, is sitting back at the alma mater, uninvited.
I wish I could go.
No, he's not uninvited. He's just just doesn't. We're on that college budget, guys. You can only do something cool once in a while. But boys, we're gonna get right into it here. Like I said, the Pick 5 on Friday starts in race number 6. It is a starter allowance $10,000, going 1 1/8 miles on the dirt. Draws a field of 9. At Keeneland on Friday, with the morning line favorite being the number 7 Bear Oak for Ricardo Santana Jr. and Norm Cassie. And as I switch over to the picks right now, guys, let's see, race number 6. You'll see 3 of us are actually going with the number 3 Tiger Moon, the second choice for Leparoux and Lindsey Schultz. And Patrick, is going with the number 7 Bear Oak. So Patrick, you get to tell us why the Chalk Eaters will win here and going with the number 7 Bear Oak.
Yeah, I like this horse 2 back at Saratoga. Actually on the dirt on the 2nd of August, going 1 1/4 miles. And then they put the horse on the turf, which, I really wasn't sure why. I was a fan of this horse on the dirt. Came from off the pace, 3 back against Portos, who's obviously a good horse for Linda Rice. And then, like I said, got on the turf and was 17-1 that day and won by a neck. So this horse is versatile. Is going to come from off the pace. Was this horse given some easy fractions to close into? Sure. But I just think this horse fits. This is a lower level race than this horse really has ever run lately. And, I know I'm not getting great odds, but I think this horse is a worthy favorite.
Well, you always guess, why are they putting him on the turf? Well, that 91 shows you exactly why.
Yeah.
And obviously, Charlie, Noah, I'll go to you, and then I'll let you talk about the number 3. But we all have this horse in the mix as well. This horse, I think, has to be included. But, I don't know if it's just price shopping for you, but could definitely get better prices elsewhere.
Yeah, I kind of thought the whole card was this way, pretty formful. Just with Bear Oak, those two turf races are the best numbers that he's ever put up. But he's definitely a contender. It's not like he hasn't put up, mid 80s in the past.
Correct.
I went with the 3 Tiger Moon. I just think he's really going to get a nice setup in this race. You're always skeptical betting Leparoux, who's 0 for the meet. But Lindsey Schultz, in my opinion, is a really underrated trader. And I just think he's going to get a really nice setup with a race that I don't see a ton of speed in. I think he can just kind of sit off and then close in the final stages.
Yeah, I agree with you on Lindsey Schultz. Charlie, obviously you have this horse on top as well. And then you have a horse nowhere, the number 4 Nepal Up, who's actually the 3rd choice and 2nd. But I thought Tiger Moon really fit in this spot. I mean, the most consistent horse by far in terms of buyer speed figures, and just tactically makes sense as well.
Yeah, that was my angle. I mean, look, I understand that it looks like he's kind of flattened out in that, 84, 85, 86 range. But for me, I'll take that any day of the week. Noah touched on what my main concern was with Bear Oak, where obviously not the figures are weak on the dirt, but obviously those 91 and 88, where you're like, wow, well, nobody in the field can compete with those figures. But again, those were on the turf. So for me, I'll take the horse that has consistently been putting up Bear Oak's best figure at a little bit better of a price. And also kind of as Noah touched on again, which I also like, is just getting the better trip. Honestly, for me, I'll touch on in a moment, I also think the 4 is interesting. But for me, I think the 4 and the 7 don't quite have the tactical speed of Tiger Moon or as many options. They're both very much so horses that are going to have to sit at the back and don't really have enough early speed to sit close. Like they basically just have to be closers. Whereas Tiger Moon, I think, has the option to be more of a closer or a stalker, depending on how fast the pace is. And I think Tiger Moon is going to have a few lengths advantage when the 3 horses get the jump at the end on the longer shot speed horses at the front. So I just think this race sets up very nicely for Tiger Moon. I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if Tiger Moon ends up going off as the favorite, maybe 5-2, sharing with Bear Oak somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm hoping I get a little bit better of a price. I hope Bear Oak sticks about that 2-1, seeing those figures on the turf. But definitely Tiger Moon could drift down based on these mid 80s. Obviously, Nepal Up is who you had in 2nd, excuse me. This last race definitely fits at Churchill, although did lose to the number 3 Tiger Moon, who actually just passed Nepal Up. So in that type of regard, I would much rather have a horse like Tiger Moon, who got eventually the jump. Or actually, no, excuse me. The number 4 was the one closing, but still the little bit cutback, or the little bit extra in distance, I think could help Tiger Moon. Leparoux kind of pushed the button a little early if you watch that replay, but obviously still finished. And a good friend of the podcast, Marshall Graham and 10 Strike Racing with Tiger Moon. Good luck to them. Noah, Patrick, and I actually landed with the number 1 Nordic Light for Brad Cox. Obvious connections, but I think this horse really fits. Obviously, it has to increase in the buyer speed figure department. But Noah, I'll go to you. What interested you about Nordic Light?
The thing that stuck out to me was the horse was kind of performing on an average level until the horse went into the Cox barn, which seems like a lot of horses do when Cox claims them. But they step up in speed figures, the 71, 78, 74. If this horse continues to step up, he could have a real life shot. I just think he's going to sit a pretty good trip close to the 3 Tiger Moon. And being down on the rail, I think he's just going to save ground and ultimately help out.
I think he might even be in front of Tiger Moon. I think that race at Delaware is where I'm really looking tactically for Tiger Moon. And obviously in his previous races, he's been up close to the pace as well. I think Nordic Light even has a little bit more speed. I think Tiger Moon could even just sit outside of Nordic Light, and hopefully if Nordic Light saves enough ground and just gets caught in behind the leaders, I'm hoping Tiger Moon gets a little bit more of a tactical advantage in that regard. But I thought 8-1 was definitely interesting for a Cox runner who has only improved since coming over to his barn. Like you said, Noah, I'm actually really interested in Nordic Light as well. I'm going 3-7-1. Patrick's going 7-3-1. Charlie's going 3-4-7, and Noah's also going with me 3-7-1. Guys, moving over to race number 7 here on the card. It's 5.5 furlongs on the turf. It's an $120,000 allowance race. These races, as we all know, draw massive fields every single time. A full field of 12 with one also eligible, and 1 MTO. The also eligible is American Starlet for Johnny Velasquez and Wesley Ward. Always one to keep your eyes on, but Johnny Velasquez jumps on the number 10, the favorite. Shoot out the lights for Wesley Ward at 9-5. Second choice will be the number 2, Redefined, coming out of New York Stakes at 7-2 for Michelle Lovell. And then third choice is the number 3, Soul Hope for Lannery and Leitner, which congrats to Lannery. For those of you that don't know, Lannery did get his 5,000th career win today in the third race at Keeneland. So, and if there's one guy that deserves it, the class act, of course, Corey Lannery. So congrats to him as well. I'm going to switch over the picks right now, guys. And you'll see 3 of us are going with the number 10, Shoot Out the Lights. But Noah is actually going with the second choice, the number 2, Redefined. So Noah, it's your turn, my man. Why are we wrong, and why is Redefined going to win?
Well, like I said earlier, I think the sequence that we're covering today is pretty formful, and it really wouldn't surprise me if Shoot Out the Lights for Ward was even money or lower in this race. But I just went with Redefined. In the Galway, I think she had a lot of excuses. She steadied after the start. She gave up, 6, 7, 8 lengths on the field in the first, 10, 12 jumps. And then after that, she kind of made a middle move and was 4 wide. She's a 6 in this race. But yeah, she kind of gets, stuck back there and
squeezed. Yeah.
She's given up, 6 lengths at least at that point. And from her past performances, her earlier races, I think she likes to be, 2.5 lengths off. But she made a middle move about 4 or 5 wide. And then just kind of flattened out, given the effort. But I think, Michelle Lovell, an aggressive spot to bring to Keeneland. I don't typically see her move horses here. And I really like the work tab, August 5th running 47-4, September 23rd running 47-4. And then that last work going 1:03. So just trying to beat the favorite in this spot.
Which, Redefined is definitely your one. People might look at this running line off the switch from Dutch Row. And you probably will get that 7-2 most likely with Leperoux jumping aboard. Redefined could definitely be the one to beat the number 10 with. But Patrick, Charlie, I'm going to go to you first here. Number 10, Shoot Out the Lights for your man, Wesley Ward. Johnny V, this horse will definitely take a lot of money and is very fast.
Yeah, the horse is absolutely flying. And, I know the horse previously has been having IRAD. But, look, Johnny V is one of the best in the business. Him and Wesley have still had plenty of connections. There's been plenty of races I've seen recently where the two of them link up and win. And to me, I just think didn't want to overthink the race, didn't want to get too creative. Now, granted, I know I kind of went chalky underneath because I didn't really see too many other realistic contenders. But I do believe for Shoot Out the Lights, it's her race to lose. Again, you mentioned a very fast horse, but also, which for me is a nice sign since Wesley does tend to have a lot of speed horses that prefer these short distances, hasn't really shown any sort of major history of fading by any means, which again, for me is obviously a big deal. Obviously second start, I guess, was the one example where it didn't look too great, but also was kind of not on the lead. That is the one thing I would say to look out for, obviously, is this horse definitely looks like one that needs the lead because the one time she didn't, it went horribly wrong, but I think she has enough speed and can get over from the outside to take this field wire to wire. There's
a lot of fast horses in this race. Patrick, I'm sure you saw, but Shoot Out the Lights just looks much faster than a lot of these horses. And to answer your thing, Charlie, Irad was riding in New York this week, so he will not be at Keeneland, which is why he is not on Shoot Out the Lights, I'm sure. But, look, Johnny V is not a replacement by any means. He's very well and good in his own right. But, Patrick, to the point of Shoot Out the Lights, I just think he's, like I said, he's just a lot faster than everyone else and could easily clear.
Yeah, you guys pretty much hit everything on Shoot Out the Lights. The only thing I would say is just, especially during the Saratoga meet, these turf sprints, you try to get cute with who has the pace edge. And if you can beat a horse coming from off the pace, I've started to learn a little bit that, in these spots, just go, especially in the turf sprints, just if you have a speed of the speed horse, stick with them because more times than not, this horse will take them the distance.
And speaking of that, you have the number 9, For Dawn, in second, and Noah actually has this horse in third, 15-1 morning line.
I love this pick, Patrick.
I was gonna say, and I know Noah really likes this pick by you as well.
Yeah, listen, you look at the form for this horse, and it's flipped from turf to dirt. 3 back was on the turf, didn't run so well. Did have excuses in that race, and then actually was on dirt because it got taken off the turf and won the race, and then just throws in another dud. So I'm going to give this horse another chance at a spot where at 15-1 I think is ridiculous, because if you look at the buyers too, this horse fits right in there if it runs its race. So probably going to be right on the lead, on or near the lead from Shoot Out the Lights. So I like this horse underneath. Maybe play some exactas.
Well, Noah, I mean, I'll give the floor to you after that, and then I'll talk about a horse that I like, but you have the same type of pick with the number 9 here.
Yeah, I like Patrick. I was interested. It was interesting to see once Paulo Lobo took over, he immediately put this horse on the turf. Didn't really end up going well. Ran into LJ's Emma, who came back and won the stake that we saw earlier. And then Hideki's a really nice horse too. Granted, the horse had a pretty tough trip steadying, and then tried to get the horse back on the turf again, but got taken off. With the 89, I feel like we were able to see the ability that this horse has, and I think Lobo saw that as well. I just feel like Lobo could have thrown this horse and, like a $40,000-$50,000 claimer, in some of those earlier races on the Keeneland card, but instead he decides to go to an aggressive spot, and I feel like he's pretty ambitious with this move to go into a tough turf field with the horse that's going to be probably 15-1 at least in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, especially the form, this 89 kind of pops out of nowhere, but if this horse really is meant to the turf like Lobo thought when he originally took over, I would like 15-1. You know me, I'm never talking off a double-digit horse. So, and I know obviously you have a very strong opinion on that horse, Noah. I went with the number 7, Laura's Charm, in second, and this was that thing where Laura's Charm has the ability to be wherever. At least Lacey Pierce is over, but gets Gaffleon as this horse as Laura's Charm had last time at Churchill. I just think this horse could set a very nice stalking trip. This horse has always been in Kentucky and has worked pretty forwardly on the church, or pretty maintenance work over the Churchill Downs training track. And I just think Laurel's Charm, if she runs that 82 again, or 80 back when she ran at Ellis, I think she could easily run for a minor placing and does not need to be towards the front by any means. So I like the number 7, Laura's Charm, underneath. But like I said, I'm 10-7-2, Patrick's 10-9-2, Charlie's 10-2-3, and Noah is 10-2-9. Guys, going to move over to race number 8 here. And shout out to Matt Miller in the chat. He does agree with a bunch of us. The number 10 is a pretty clear pace edge. Thanks so much, man, for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. Race number 8 here is another allowance going 1 1/8 on the dirt. Draws a full field of 10, and the heavy morning line favorite in this spot is the number 8, Raging Sea, for Pratt and Brown at 6-5. Jesus Christ. The number 3, Poblano, for Gaffleon and Walsh at 7-2. Third choice is the number 10 on the outside, Louisiana bred Sabra Tough, for Raylu and Dallas Stewart. Going to switch over the picks right now, guys. And 3 of us are going against Raging Sea.
Wow.
But Charlie going with Raging Sea.
I thought it was going to be the only one, and I was going to be so excited.
Oh, absolutely not.
This
no
money
way, because
stealing horse.
Not money stealing horse. You want to talk about money stealing race? I'll let Charlie talk, but Noah brought it up to me, and obviously it's a big stat that we need to go over. But Charlie, what do you like most about Raging Sea?
I'm just sold on Raging Sea. I mean, we'll get into the best bets later, but I think this is I know the efforts aren't okay. I know the efforts aren't unbelievable, but look, you're picking up Pratt again with Chad Brown. I know they've been having them together, and the horse has been a money burner, but there's just no horse in this field that really does anything else for me. I mean, when we get to the best bets later, I'll highlight this more. But really, I mean, the horse is working forwardly. I love the fact that the horse has shown being tactical. You see her earlier in the career, sat way back and was able to close up, just couldn't quite get there, then sat. I think, honestly, with Raging Sea, Pratt has any option he wants. with being the class of this field. It can really go for any trip. If it kind of sets up nicely for Regency to just go up there, I think she can handle it. If it ends up being a fast pace, I think Regency will have no problem sitting a little bit back. I understand the horse hasn't quite gotten the job done, but it's not like every effort has been a dud. The horse is still in and around the money. I know for how little value there's been, you need to see better than that. But I feel like, again, we talk about this on the show all the time. And I will point out a lot of the time when it's one of those horses where you either have to say I've given up completely on them or this is their do or die. Whenever I go with the horse on the do or die, I think almost every single time I've done that, the horse has ended up winning. So I'm just saying picking against me here might not be the right move, but I feel like Regency has to win here. I think this is one of those races where you look for more of a nice price to put underneath, and Regency bids the crowd adieu and wins.
So here's my point. Noah, how many races have the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies
I saw this
been
on
over?
Twitter.
Yeah.
How many?
2022 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies horses are 0 for 43 since that race.
That's incredible.
Charlie, good luck with your best bet at 45.
Hey, 44 might be the right number. There's that old commercial. There's that old commercial where the person's like number 44, and they're all excited about number 44. So maybe that was just meant to be the number.
If we played the what if game in this spot and Raging Sea did not win, on debut at Saratoga last summer, if this horse came in, let's just say second, where would this horse be right now? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I hate to bring it, but the horse runs a Keeneland in October to, obviously go to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, actually runs respectable. You get third in that race. That's very good. So I'm not, I shouldn't knock, but it just, this horse at Saratoga, end of the meet, you felt like that was the spot where if
the fall off of Wonder Wheel.
It's like
you didn't need to
not
put that
then,
up.
and when is it
That
going
was
to
a
be?
violation.
I mean, I'll just go like Wonder Wheel retired already, might I add. After the Juvenile Fillies ran second in the Suncoast, which one of us talked about. We loved it. We actually really loved Wonder Wheel, and she looked absolutely loaded behind and just could not win. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who else liked her. But I couldn't believe she lost that race. And then Ashland, horrible. Oaks, horrible. Celine, horrible. Retired. Leave no trace. After the Juvenile Fillies, 0-0 turf.
A double zero is pretty impressive, to be fair. I didn't know you could do that twice.
About as impressive as getting a double zero in bowling, realistically speaking. Raging Sea we looked at. Saber Tough is also in this race. Has not been above fourth in her past and since the Juvenile Fillies, and that was in a 50,000 optional claimer at Saratoga.
Chocolate Gelato, where she ran in a big race, right?
Chocolate Gelato,
Or
yes,
he, I should say.
Yeah. No, you're right. She won the Frizette, but then was bad. Was
With
fourth in
Alabama,
Jersey,
right.
and then Alabama was.
Oh God! So
I don't have to. I'm not going to go through the rest of the field. You get the point by this point.
No,
I mean,
yes,
look,
it's very
could
cool.
Raging Sea win?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely, she could win. Am I going to play a horse that's coming out of a race where not a single horse has won since last November? No, I'm not going to play that. So, Patrick, I'm going to go to you. We like the number 3 Poblano for Brendan Walsh and Gaff Leone. Granted, first time facing winners last time was put into a listed stake, but I mean, that shows, to me, it shows intent by Walsh. And that maiden, I can't show it obviously because of Churchill and DRF, but that maiden win was really impressive.
Maiden win was really impressive. The stake race, like you talked about, I think she has an excuse in. You talked about the connections. Depending on what the chatter's about Raging Sea, this horse might get bet down too.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm going alternate route in this spot. And I like Poblano in this spot. So we'll I wonder what type of trip this horse is going to sit. Going the furthest distance she's ever gone. So, but I definitely will do the right thing, and I think this horse has a big shot.
I don't necessarily think she needs to lead. She hasn't really passed horses, but I mean, AP Indy Curlin by AP Indy mare, I don't think will have any problem distance-wise at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like I said, that maiden win she did clear very easily, but I still think that she doesn't need the lead. This maiden run at Churchill against Vava, who losing to Vava is no shortage. in her own right, just won the Charlestown Oaks. And obviously you could see everybody else behind her that won next time out, Lady Irene, Brona Boyne, and Dear Lady. And then we go to her next race, her last race, which she loses to Jagira, granted by 19 1/4, but taxed. She's looking lucky. Jagira, I mean, we talk about the company lines all day long, but if she gets back to that 85 against a little bit easier company, I think Poblano is definitely live in this spot personally. But no, I'll go to you. Talk on anything we didn't talk about Poblano, as you also have her on top, but then you have the number 4, Let's Duet, also in third, that none of us have anywhere.
Yeah, to quickly touch on Poblano, there were 3 quick things that I liked that stood out to me. Number 1, the fact that the horse debuted at Keeneland and was stuck on the rail. Number 2, the switch to Gaffleone is absolutely huge. This combo has been so deadly throughout the fall meet. And then the third was, according to the work tab, I think Walsh was pointing to this spot all along. So that's why I like Poblano. And then Let's Duet was just kind of a board horse for me. Had just been kind of stuck in these allowance races, running, close seconds, distant thirds. Just a horse that I think is going to be really far back, but just going to be coming late. Maybe he can get up for third.
Especially if there's a pace in front. We've seen that many times before. Last one we'll talk about really quick and move on. Charlie, I'll go back to you here. Shirley, which banger name, but Brad Cox, Florence Giroux, one of his Indiana horses, which we all know Brad Cox likes to send horses to Indiana, but not necessarily his top flight. But this is another one that will be a little bit farther back and could pick up the pieces.
I mean, yeah, and that was my angle. I mean, obviously wasn't a cheap horse, picks up, in my opinion, a major jockey upgrade, getting Florent Giroux. And honestly, that was the angle I was looking for. Is I saw a lot of horses in this field that want to go towards the front, a lot of real contenders that are going to be fast. Obviously, I mean, the 8 will probably can sit any chip, but it'll probably be somewhat towards the front. The 7's going to have to go. The 9's going to have to go. I know for the 3, you guys kind of made it clear, which I agree with. We don't know exactly what will happen, but certainly it'll be somewhat forwardly placed. So I was just looking for a horse that could take advantage of a lot of horses that'll be either speed or pressing. And I think Shirley certainly could take advantage of it. And the other thing I really liked was, obviously we've seen the late kick is there. It's the lack of early pace. And I'm kind of hoping with the 2 back-to-back bullet works of 59 flat and then a minute flat, maybe points of this horse is now getting ramped up a little bit more. Certainly think adding distance will only help Shirley. I think having as much, and again, the name, as Richard pointed on it, and you did as well, as Elite. But yeah, I just think at 10-1, again, because it's Cox and Giroux, probably won't get that. I think you'll get closer to maybe 8-1, but certainly an underneath price that I really like. And again, I mean, if you feel strongly about the 3 or 8, which are probably going to be the 2 horses taking the most money, I think this is a great horse to look for underneath.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is the one horse that could have worked her way into this spot, right? Because I mean, you see these last 2 works at Indiana. This horse has been in Indiana all the way through last week, and she's won just bullet after bullet. So maybe Brad Cox is getting a little bit of confidence in Shirley, but obviously we'll see for sure, no pun intended, on Friday. I didn't even mean to say that. That just came out of my mouth. I'm going 3-2-8. Patrick's going 3-8-6. Charlie's going 8-6-3. Noah's going 3-8-4. A little bit of Howard teacher comedy for you.
I was about to say, you sound like the
boss. Lighten up your Wednesday. Guys, switching over, race number 9, another $130,000 allowance, N3X, going a mile on the turf. Again, guys, these turf races draws another full field of 12 with 4 MTOs. But the morning line favorite is the number 7, Easter, for Pratt in Motion. The second choice is number 8, Strong Quality, at 7-2. And the third choice is the number 4, Main Event, for Sayas and Weaver. Switching over the picks right now, and we are all I couldn't believe this. I'm going to put us full screen. I couldn't believe this when I saw it. I thought I had some, a nice little underneath, which I'm sure every single one of us thought that we were going to have a nice.
No, I'm happy we're all not on the.
No, dude, the Rager took all the power, dude. His power went out. That's awesome. Anyway,
I can't believe this. I thought the 11 was so unique. 11, oh my god!
Forever Super at 10-1 underneath. And Patrick, you're gonna go first. You haven't gone first yet, so I'm gonna go to you here. Talking about the number 7, Easter. I just love it. Oh, you had to get up and touch the light switch.
Yeah,
again?
no. So this
That's
room that
awesome.
I'm
Oh,
in
the
is
motion
like,
sensor.
yeah, it's motion censored. So I'm like completely
just
away
start
from
just
the
start
door.
waving. Just
Yeah,
start
I
waving
had
every
to
5 minutes.
get up and
You
start
know-
doing jumping jacks.
Yeah, so you got to be like me. You got to be very expressive with your opinions, and then
That's
the
right.
lights will remember
Yeah,
you.
more Italian, more with the hands.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, Patrick, Easter 5-2, Grand Motion. Pratt looks the best on paper.
Yeah, it looks the best on paper, and it's going to get the trip. I firmly believe that this horse, there's going to be a ton of pace in this race. Oh God.
Yeah, if you want to be expressive, that's expressive right there.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, Patrick, go ahead.
But yeah, like I said, I think Easter's going to sit the perfect spot. Has faced tough competition before, and this is one of the softer spots. And I just think the horses that are talent-wise competitive with Easter, I'm not a fan of. Like the 8, I don't even have the horse in my top 3. You guys have the horse in 3rd.
We all have the same picks, by the way. I just noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, strong quality is just one. It's a one-way, road for this horse. The horse is going to go, and there's a ton of horses that want to go in this spot. So, I just think Easter, is.
I also think to your point there, strong quality is going to get bet because running lines, we talk about all the time. Up to the mark, point me by, set piece, Santine, Adamo, Harlan Estate. Yes, this time, like just running lines. Strong quality will be bet. And I mean, she needs the lead, or he needs the lead. Strike 1 on me, but he needs the lead. And if he doesn't get the lead, he's pressed at all. It seems like he just he doesn't give up, obviously, against very good horses. And this is a softer spot. But at most likely is going to be 5-2. Strong quality could be a play against for a lot of people. But Noah, I'll go to you, man. Apparently, like I said, I thought I was going to have a nice one coming from Monmouth, Trombetta, shipping across the country, working lights out. But every single one of us has this horse in second.
Yeah, just a really nice horse that's just improving with every start. You never really know how good those Monmouth fields are, but beating them by 2 and 2.5 lengths, definitely respectable. And Trombetta moves the horse to Keeneland to work and then runs a really nice 47-2 Beyer on October 13th. So just like you said, a horse at 10-1, that's probably going to get bet. But Super Live, I think he's probably going to get the first jump. Maybe going to have the lead at the top of the stretch. But ultimately, I think Easter is the one that's got the best leg kick, and just going to probably most likely go by in the stretch.
It just looks like he sits the trip, in this type of spot. I agree with you. But since this horse has switched over to Trombetta, it's just been improvement all the way through. Allow N1X at Monmouth loses by a length, comes back another N1X half a length, wins by 2.5. Optional claiming N2X at Monmouth going a little bit farther, wins by 2.5. And you could always play it's Monmouth. Who did he beat? But this horse has been improving. Fits, again, the trip fits as well. I think I really like Forever Super underneath, but apparently if we all like him, everyone else is going to like him, and we're never going to get anything out of it. But Patrick, I'll let you close out the conversation. King Max 8-1 on the morning line. You have in third for Delgado and Santana.
Yeah, this is an underneath play. This horse was like the 11 was running at Monmouth and ran very well. And then they ship up to Woodbine, runs on the synthetic, and really didn't take to that. So I'll take this horse back at a price. Should going to be a little bit more forward than Easter, and I think could hit the board.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Especially if he improves off these 88 and 89 races for sure. This is one that I looked at, but I just thought strong quality being running lines and could be very close up front and maybe hold off a horse that's coming from behind like King Max while being passed by horses like Easter and maybe even the 11. But we'll see come race time, of course. I'm going 7-11-8. So is Charlie and Noah. We all have the same exact picks. And Patrick is going 7-11-10. But I want to bring it up. Richard Avalar, absolutely. I want to bring this up real quick because you are correct. Excellent girl. If you look at these sibling PPs, what am I? Oh, the Sire, excuse me, is I believe is where, but we don't have it. But yes, he brings up Exceeded and Excel on the dam side. Modern Games Brother won recently as well. Only boosts Easter. And like I said, I just think he sits a really nice trip in this spot coming over from New York. But we'll switch over to the last race here, guys. Race number 10. It is a $20,000 claimer to end it. 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. And what do you know? A full field of 11. Shocker, to say the least. The morning line favorite is the number 4, Dual Monarchy for Gaffleone and Joe Sharp. The number 11, Captivated Drama, is your second choice at 7-2 for Santana and Diodoro. And the number 9, Mahoney Road, is the third choice. I'll switch over the picks right now. Charlie, you're going first because 2 of you are going with the number 9, Mahoney Road, for Donald Habib as the trainer. But I'm going to switch over right now, guys. What do you like most about the number 9, Mahoney Road?
Yeah, so obviously being ridden by Gaffleone last time out and not staying with Gaffleone, I guess you could argue if you want to play the jockey game is concerning. But for me, I'm not too worried about that. I like the fact that Mahoney Road has shown very solid speed and being able to, for the most part, still hold up and stay in there. I know the figures aren't crazy, but they are consistent. And I feel like a figure, in like the low 70s is kind of what's going to be needed to win this race, and that's what you'll get. Obviously, the workout last time, 48-1, also is a nice touch. And again, I just like the horse that has also shown some tactical ability. I mean, last time out, sat just off and then went and ended up getting caught. But you see a few back with the last victory was sitting just behind the leaders. And that's what I'm kind of hoping for Mahoney Road, is to just sit right behind the speed and then be the first one to get the jump and go by. And I was also just looking for a little more value. For me, again, I know I've preached about how much I like Tyler Gaffleone, and Joe Sharp's obviously a solid trainer in his own right, and the horse has worked well and has decent numbers. And obviously, with me having the horse second, still think Dual Monarchy could be competitive here. But I just have no interest in 5-2, and I don't think you'll get much more value than that. And again, for the performances we're seeing, I mean, last time out, gets second by 9 lengths. I'm just not sold on that horse, and I'm not taking 5-2 odds.
And I completely get it, but I'm going to bring this up, Patrick, and I'll go to you with this as well. Paul is stealing my thunder in the chat because I was planning on bringing this up all along. Donald Habib, first off the claim in the last 5 years, 2 for 30 and only 30% in the money with the horses that he claims off. So that was one thing that I noticed right away. Obviously, this horse fits on figures, but hasn't worked since August. Was claimed off of Greg Foley and hasn't worked for Habib since, which I don't know if you guys noticed any of those stats or the workouts, but that was a concern for me. Patrick.
Yeah, fair. But I would say I did like this horse last race at Churchill Downs. I thought didn't win, but the horse fought on and was caught in a wicked pace. I think the numbers fit in this spot, to be quite frank, and in a spot where if I was playing pick 4 and pick 5s, I'd be spreading a ton in this spot. I just think that this horse is going to be, 4-1, 5-1, and should, be on or near the lead. And, I prefer one of those because this is, I feel like, one of those races where a lot of horses aren't going to be passing others.
I mean, I completely get it. I couldn't trust a horse that's most likely going to be a low to middling price and is going to a trainer that most people have never even heard of, that is only 30% within the money horses in this past off the claim in this past 5 years. So that's for me. But Captivated Drama, Noah, is who you're going with. 7-2 morning line, second choice. The last race coming off the claim for Diodoro, who does a lot better off the claim than 2 for 30.
Yeah, my angle on this horse was simply what you just said. Diodoro off the claim. Just a horse that he took over and has trained really well at Keeneland, ran a bullet 47-3 October 5th. I am aware that there is quite a bit of speed in this race, but I think the fact that he's drawn to the outside, Santana can kind of look to his left and dictate things. And Diodoro's one win in the meet was where he had 2 horses in the race in a low-level claiming race, and they were neck and neck going to the wire. So that's, as per usual, that's kind of his forte.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just showed it on the screen. 24% in 730 starts in the last 5 years for Diodoro off the claim. I mean, you could play the numbers game, absolutely, and this horse is working ever so forwardly. But as Matt Mueller points out, Patrick nailed it. No one feels reliable at all. I completely agree with you, Matt. As these 20,000 claimers usually tend to have that type of feel to them. I'm going with Dual Monarchy. I understand he's going to be the favorite most likely, but 3-year-old ran a 74 last time out behind Inexorable, who ran a very nice race that day. I just think if you can bring over that 74 again to what is basically a drop down to 20,000, still working very forwardly, working 49 flat, 48 and 4 since that last race, as well as a bullet at Ellis Park. So I'm just thinking an easier spot coming to Keeneland, getting a little bit less distance, I think will actually help Dual Monarchy. Just a lot of different things pointing to this spot, although he will be the favorite, and it's very hard to trust anyone in this spot. And like I said, there's so many horses. Number 5, Pistol Shotgun, I have in 3rd. Just a horse that can pick up the pieces late if there is a fast pace out there, with a lot of horses that don't necessarily like to pass at all. Patrick also has the 5. The number 7, Libertango, who I have in 2nd, who Charlie also likes in 3rd. Patrick has in 2nd, excuse me. Libertango. Did I write this down wrong? Why do I have the number 7 in 2nd in this race? Oh, well, whatever. I guess I wrote it down wrong either way. But Libertango has a shot as well going to the lead. But I know I have 4-11-5, but you see my DRF. I have 4-7-1.
Okay, I see.
So maybe I just wrote them down wrong. Yeah.
Have too much to drink while you were doing that?
I get. I mean, where am I in this? Like here, I guess too much to drink for me. But either one way or another, guys, I should probably switch that because I don't know what happened there. Simon O'Neill, I see you in the chat, man. What's going on? Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate you're joining at the end of the Keeneland segment, but we are talking about Breeders' Cup, so don't you guys go anywhere. I'm going 4-7-1, I guess. Patrick's going 9-7-5. Charlie's going 9-4-7, and Noah's going 11-4-9. Guys, we're going to go over best bets here before Breeders' Cup time, and we'll go pretty quickly through them. Patrick, you'll go first since you are to my right. You are going with a number. Oh, nope, I did not. Why didn't that change either? I'll get that up right now, but you have the win on the number 3, Poblano, as your first one.
Yeah, I have the win on Poblano. That's that horse will face Rages.
I switched this stuff. I guess I didn't save it. I don't know. But anyway, go ahead. Poblano is your first one.
Poblano to win against facing Raging C. That's the 8th race, and then the 9th. I'm going to play exactas with the 7 Easter, along with the 11. That's Forever Super, and the 10 King Max. So those will be my best bets.
Yeah, I remember putting that in too. That's the worst part. So I don't know. I guess I just didn't save it. But there it is on the screen for those of you that have it. The number 3, Poblano, in race number 7. That's in race against Raging C, as Patrick stated, and race number 9 in exacta with Easter on top, and the 2 horses, the number 10 and the number 11 underneath. Patrick, good luck with your best bets. Charlie, you're going with actually centering around Raging C, which this is either going to go very good for Charlie or very good for us. I feel an exacta 8/6 and a double 8 with 7 with Easter. Charlie, go ahead, talk about your best bets.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have the the personal vendetta or agenda against Raging C.
The number vendetta? Hello?
Yeah, that seems like everyone else has against Raging C. I'm trusting Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt to get the job done. And then as we kind of all touched on, we're kind of in union that Easter seems like the clear-cut horse to beat. So that's why I'm just doing a stone cold double there. And then as I touched on earlier, I know Patrick also liked this horse underneath. You like the name. I think Shirley for Cox and Giroux is a very interesting horse that could pick up the pieces with some very solid works. So I wanted to play that. And I was actually originally going to give out a 3rd one, but Patrick already had given out, and it seemed like we all were going to be on it. But I'm happy I didn't give it out because I thought it was going to be unique. It was going to be playing Easter over Forever Supper for some value. But who knows? If everybody watches our show, the 11 is not going to be that 10-1 long shot. Probably end up being the second choice, and we'll look like chalk eating weasels.
Dude, I swear. Obviously, if we like them, then obviously it's going to be Simon O'Neill is here, man. Thanks so much. And Jim Pillar's, after he told us he was never going to join the show again, flips on Bettin N Boozin. Of course, we're in a bird cage. All of the same. Dude, that's a 10-1 in second. I got nothing for you. Apparently, we're all just Geniuses or idiots? Pick one. I don't know what you want, but Jim, thanks so much, man, for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Noah, going to you. Win race number 9 for Dawn underneath. Sorry, in race number 7. That was the horse that you and Patrick both liked underneath, and race number 9, a win on the number 7 Easter.
Yeah, I've got Ford on underneath, who's the Lobo horse, who's getting back to the turf. Horse with a lot of speed. You never know if the ward, checks or doesn't break. You never know what can happen in these turf sprints. She might find herself on the front end and get brave, maybe hold on for second or third. And then nothing creative, as we've touched on, just a win bet on Easter, who's probably going to sit the trip. Probably not going to be a good price either. But I'm in a little bit of a slump myself. So
any way you want to make it to yourself, man.
Yeah, I just need a little win to kind of get right back on track. So
hey,
I like it.
I'll take it for you, my friend. Race number 6, I have them win on the number 3, Tiger Moon. Value of 5-2. I just think morning line of 3-1 in that starter allowance race. I just think he really sits a trip in that race for 10 strike. That's the very consistent horse with Lindsay Schultz as the trainer. I just think if he's able to get a clear run with Leparoux aboard, hopefully he can get out of the donut status for on the meet. I think 5-2 is fair value. Could be bet below that, but obviously anything below 5-2, I'm not willing to take. And race number 9, of course, win on number 7 Easter, with the running lines of the number 8 Strong Quality and of the horse that we all like going to bet down to 8-5. So hopefully I'll get 5-2 on Easter, and I think that's very fair value for a horse that looks to sit a very nice trip with good numbers. So both win bets for me. The way I've been betting, I mentioned this on the show before, I set myself like 3 or 4 horses that I want to play or bets that I want to play. But if they're below what I'm willing to take, I think the risk will outweigh the reward. So I don't say outweigh the reward. I think the number 7 Easter could net very good value at 5-2. But guys, we're going to switch over here, guys. We're going to go into Breeders' Cup action here. And for those of you that don't know, at the beginning of the show, I'm going to go over it again here. We have Breeders' Cup power picks for sale for all weekend for both Friday and Saturday for only $20. That's full card analysis, spot plays, price plays, anything you need to be successful during Breeders' Cup for only $20 when most outfits are charging $50 to $100. HHHRacingPodcast.com. If you go to the top, I'm going to bring it up one more time for those of you that weren't here at the beginning of the show. And for those of you that are just joining, thanks so much for doing so. Breeders' Cup Power Picks tip sheet, HHHRacingPodcast.com. At the top, there's a tab, Power Picks tip sheet. Click on it. It's the first thing on top. It is through PayPal. You can pay any way you want through PayPal. $20 for both Friday and Saturday. Complete card analysis for you guys. Again, very cheap, very affordable, and all the information that you need. Not to mention for the power picks that we've been doing for 2.5 years already, the boys are still much over the even mark. So with an ROI, I believe, of 2.4. So please get in on this. Again, HHHRacingPodcast.com /power picks tip sheet. And again, at the top here, there's a tab that will take you right to it. So, and for those of you that don't know, we are, of course, will be a part of the Power Picks tip sheet. We are both covering one race in entirety. So not only will there be full card analysis, there will also be heavy analysis for every single Breeders' Cup race on the card. And we 3 of us have the sprints, and Charlie, my friend, is actually covering the juvenile. So all the weight is on his shoulders. So I'm covering the turf sprint because I'm apparently the turf sprint guru now that I've had basically 4 horses in the turf sprint category, in the stake turf sprint category. Patrick is covering the filly and mare sprint, and Noah, I believe, is Noah's covering the filly and mare sprint. Patrick is covering the Breeders' Cup sprint, which obviously got a lot more spicy with Echo Zulu, of course, having sesamoid fractures, which Patrick's already shaking his head at.
I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that I had the sprint, I was ecstatic at first, and then I realized I'm like, oh my lord. I mean, Echo Zulu was going to be my single on everything, but it is what it is. Thank God thank God the horse is okay and is going to be
Yes,
able
she
to.
is, and there's been a few updates. She's doing very well after her surgery. So hey, and Richard, I can't give out too much early. We're gonna be doing so many Breeders' Cup shows. I can't be giving it out too early, so you don't watch those, which I know you will. But of course, we Bettin N Boozin, I believe we have 4 shows that week. We've mentioned it before. We are doing early pick 5 shows, and we are doing 2-day pick 6, and we're doing a show early as well, I believe, for the pre-entries. I believe that is a Bettin N Boozin show. So be on the lookout for those, and all those dates will come out soon, as obviously we're getting those set up. But no, Patrick, I'm gonna let you go first here. You have the Breeders' Cup Sprint, which obviously, as I just said, suffered that loss, but still a lot of interesting horses realistically in this race. You have a lot of West Coast talent that is on here. You have Elite Power. You have Gunite, who's actually Gunite's right here. I was like, I'm just blind. So you have a field of 11 contenders right now. 10 of them are USA, and you have the one Japan horse, Jasper Crone, who's a wild card, who's actually a turf runner, but is being considered for the Breeders' Cup Sprint as well. But Anarchist, I'll let you talk about it, but obviously you'll talk about the contenders as we go through.
Yeah, so looking through the field so far, you got your standouts, Elite Power, Goodnight. Those two have battled it out this past summer at Saratoga in the Vanderbilt, and then in the Forego, and they both traded punches. Elite Power won the Vanderbilt, and Goodnight won the Forego. So you have those two. And then you got Speedboat Beach for Bob Baffert, who has only raced once this year, which is bizarre. And this horse is the speed of the speed. Ran well in that Santa Anita Sprint. And then, like you brought up, you have the Japan horse, Jasper Crone, who has won 4 of 7 starts this year. Has not won a grade 1. I do think this is a step up for this horse. And then you have the the local contingent of American Theorem, Dr. Shivel, and then Anarchist, Hoist the Gold, and the Chosen. Chosen Vron. So this is a fun race now because you can just kind of pair up Elite Power and Goodnight and say these are the two, but you have to be careful with the local horses. Dr. Shivel's a good one. I wouldn't count out Speedboat Beach. That horse is the speed of the speed, and Baffert, this horse is gearing this guy's gearing this horse up. I was reading something today. We could say this horse has only run once, but I think this horse is going to be ready to go. So this is a fun race. I'm excited to cover it. And to be quite honest, I have not sided with anybody yet.
Well, and I mean, obviously, we'll see. In these types of races, post positions. I mean, the sprints. There's a big difference so it's very hard to formulate opinions early. Anarchist obviously won the Pat O'Brien these past few weeks at Del Mar. Hoist the Gold, who just won it, who won a Keeneland at a decent price, I believe. If I go to his results, it's as the Breeders' Cup site continues to load. But either way, won at Keeneland last time out. The Chosen Vron had that very close finish in a stakes at Del Mar as well. Elite Power, nothing to say about him. Gunite, nothing to say about him. Jason Cook running a 3 technique, who was very good in races earlier in the year and hasn't necessarily continued, if I remember correctly, considering this is just taking forever to load. I don't know why it's not loading. Dr. Shivel, who's a very nice horse out on the West Coast. Speedboat Beach, who we talked about for Baffert. Jasper Crone's obviously the wild card, and Nakatomi for Ward, who just ran a good second at Keeneland. Speedboat Beach, guys. People are gonna say Baffert, but that horse is an absolute speedball, and if he gets anywhere near the lead in I believe is it 5.5 or 6 at
6
Santa Anita? Is it 6? Okay. I mean, at 6 furlongs, obviously Baffert tried him long early in his career, But if he comes back, I mean, he's super fast. And on the West Coast, Speedboat Beach is definitely not to be taken lightly in this race. Who Richard Avalar actually posted in the chat what I was going to say next. Just looked like an absolute prep in that last race for this. Obviously, 2 starts in the year. People always question it. But for me, if I like him that day, hopefully it just gives me a better price. And that's the way it rolls. Obviously, with Elite Power and Gunite in that field, you should get a price on Speedboat Beach. But it's going to be this is going to absolutely be a fun race come the day. So, Patrick, good luck and look out for his analysis on the Breeders' Cup Power Picks this November. Charlie, gonna go to I'm gonna let you go last, Charlie, because you technically have I would argue the biggest race of us all. So Noah, I'm gonna go to you next. You have the filly and mare sprint. As I pass it up. So there's a bunch of horses in this field that are actually very interesting, but I'll let you talk about as I scroll through the field.
Yeah, so on my screen, I've got the contenders and the odds right now, currently.
Which actually, thank
odds.
you. That's what I need to bring up too.
Yeah. So at the top of the list is Goodnight Olive, who there's really not much to be said. I mean, she won this race last year. She ran a really game second to Echo Zulu, who we talked about earlier, which is super unfortunate. But just to be even close to Echo Zulu, she's really going to have a live shot. And in these, Breeders' Cup races, you've got, big, talented favorites like Tamara, Cody's Wish, and another one in Goodnight Olive. So it'll be interesting to see when everybody kind of looks at the card as a whole and making decisions, where to single, where to spread, where to try to beat a big favorite, stuff like that. Second choice right now is Society for Asmussen. Society is actually, 4-1. Actually a grade 1 winner around two turns, ran a 107 in the pink ribbon at Charlestown in her last race.
Correct.
A horse with a lot of speed. Like Kyle said, it'll be interesting to see where she draws, depending on. It seems like there's probably a decent amount of speed in this race, so she'll have to work out a trip somehow. Third choice is Carmel Swirl for Bill Mott, who we actually covered the Gallant Bloom, which she won last race. But from recollection, I don't remember that was really a great race. The buyer only came back 88. So maybe not in tip-top form, but, Bill Mott is.
Which she didn't win the Gallant Bloom, by the way. She got third in the Gallant Bloom. I wanted to make sure I looked at that right, but it was kind of actually wasn't the best third either. She's the one, I believe, right on the inside here.
I think she is the one.
Yeah, and she's just she's trying her hardest for sure.
Yeah,
she's coming up, but does get Pencer though there, and that's obviously what people are going to look at. But so disappointing third, I was wrong, but she did end up running third and could have easily won that race. But yeah, you are right, Noah. We did cover that race.
Yeah, last thing I was going to say was Bill Mott. He's plenty capable of winning a race like this. And then the next two actually face each other in the TCA at Keeneland on opening weekend. Those are Wicked Halo, also for Asmussen at 8-1. And Ugiri for Brissett and Pratt, also at 8-1. It's funny. I had a lot of money on Wicked Halo that day, and I was really disappointed in her effort. But she could just kind of be going in the wrong direction. And the fact that Ugiri, she was down on the inside and she was able to, be game and fight. Maybe a horse to look at a price. In terms of horses that are in this race or available for this race in California, really nothing special. The highest one on this list is Kirstenbosch for Sadler at 15-1. But she got an ultimate setup in the Chillingworth last time.
Correct.
So it'll be interesting to see, where the California love goes, where that money goes. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of price we get on Goodnight Olive.
Yeah, and obviously we didn't even know if Echo Zulu was going to go the filly mare sprint or the sprint. My guess would have probably been the Filly Mare Sprint, being like Gunite is obviously a major contender. But now that she's out, Goodnight Olive is going to be, I would assume, a pretty low price, anywhere in that to 5 area. I don't know if she'll go below even money because Yoguri did have a very nice win last time at Keeneland, but you expect Goodnight Olive to be a very big favorite. And Matt Arrea's in there, who's going to take Carmel Swirl with the trouble, is going to take some money, I would assume. And you said Society's second choice, which I thought was actually really interesting. Although very impressive last time out, but I mean, it's Charlestown going around where she had the lead by herself. I mean, we can argue this as much, and we are going to, because we're going to cover it like a glove up top to bottom. But Filly Mare Sprint's another one where you can go, if you don't go Goodnight Olive, there's many different ways that you can end up going. But Richard Avlar, she is okay. She had surgery, and I believe I've seen 3 updates on Twitter, or X, excuse me, on the past few days, and she is doing good. Nothing bad to report. So absolutely. I mean, she's the champion, right? And she would have probably been favored in this year's race again, but sadly, that has taken her out of the running. But Simon O'Neill says, wouldn't want an inside post for Goodnight Olive. No, I'll end with you on that question, or that kind of statement. Is I would agree with him. I mean, Goodnight Olive usually runs her better races on the outside, but not to, with her style, you just really don't want her getting caught up in the mix.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, just because in this race last year, she was able to sit off, but she was kind of placed outside. I think she was either in the 7 or 8 hole.
Yep.
So she gets kind of stuck down on that rail at Santa Anita, which they actually are going 7. So it'll be interesting to see, how an inside horse kind of takes to that rail, as they cross the that first turn, that little portion there. But yeah, if she's inside, definitely could be a play against, in terms of, structuring tickets and stuff like that, just because there are going to be some more notably favorites. But yeah, always never going to talk anybody off trying to beat a favorite in a spot like this.
Yeah. And I found something. So for the Breeders' Cup Sprint, Elite Power right now, this is per Odds Checker. This is an anti-post betting site. So Breeders' Cup Sprint, Elite Power is favorite at 9-4 right now. So around that 2-1 area. Gunite is actually set. All right. Echo Zulu is obviously not in the race anymore. Dr. Shivel is second choice at 5-1. The Gunite behind at 7. And actually Bango is in there as well. So there's a bunch of different horses in here, but Elite Power is the favorite. And for the where is the Filly Mare Sprint? I'm looking for it right now. Sorry, guys. We're doing this on the fly here. Filly Mare Sprint right now. Goodnight Olive is 7-4. So she's actually under 2-1 right now. Society is second choice, which I see. And Pretty Mischievous is actually also in here, but I don't think she's going to the sprint. She's definitely going to the Filly Mare. And then Yuguri is third choice from this list at 10-1. But guys, Charlie, I'm gonna let you go next here. I'll go last as usual. But the Breeders' Cup Juvenile is a race that you can go many different ways, at least in my opinion. There's also some there's a Japanese and an Irish horse. I don't think the Irish horse is going to point here, and the Japan horse is the wild card. But horses that we've seen race in the last few weeks actually are going to be the main contenders. Timberlake, who just won in New York. Locked, who had that extremely good performance at Keeneland. General Partner, who just ran a decent second in that race that two of us really liked. And then, of course, you have what, my opinion, would be most likely the favorite would be Prince of Monaco for Baffert. But Charlie, go ahead, talk about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything about who my actual pick would be, because I don't want to spoil it for the picks.
Just a brief overview.
Yeah, I'll just say, for my brief overview, I'd say the main contenders in this field, as you kind of started to touch on, for me, were obviously Timberlake, Muth, Locked, Prince of Monaco, and the Wine Steward. For me, those were the 5 that really stood out. Now, I know we have a few horses we're waiting on, to see who actually ends up being in for the finalized field. And then, yeah, as you kind of touched on, I mean, realistically, I think because the Baffert horses and how well they've run, Prince of Monaco certainly will be bet down because Prince of Monaco had that dominant win over Muth, who was heavily favored. I don't know quite also because Juan Hernandez is riding what the odds will be on Muth. I assume Timberlake for Cox off that impressive effort against Fierceness, who may or may not end up in this field. Will certainly be bet down because of that impressive performance. And then, as you touched on, Locked for Todd Fletcher has been very well lately. Had a very impressive trip after having to go very wide as the favorite to work around the whole field, and still showed to have plenty in the tank. So I think those will be the lower prices. And then for me, the one horse I would look towards where you're probably not going to have to worry about, betting under 5-1 if you're looking for a value pick, for me is the Wine Steward. Ran a very game effort against Locked, who I think is very, very game in this spot and a very dangerous horse in this spot. But yeah, the Wine Steward ran a very nice effort. Gets Luis Saez, who I think is probably the perfect jockey for this horse. Trained by Michael Maker, who's one of the best in the business. But yeah, for me, those are the main contenders. Obviously, you also have General Partner, who ran a very nice effort in the Champagne. You have Fierceness, who did not run well at all, but was obviously bet heavily and, was a horse we had all kind of touched on as one that was expected to run well and just did not fire. For me, I don't really know what to make of the Champagne race. Obviously, the weather was a factor. The fact that some of the main contenders didn't really run at all was a factor. And I don't know. For me, the race wasn't super impressive. So, again, obviously, when we get to actual picks, I'll touch on that. But nonetheless, still have to respect the horses that ran in that field. And again, that's why I did touch on Timberlake still being one of the main contenders in the spot. Absolutely. And I think it's going to be interesting because I think a lot of these contenders are very tactical horses where you could argue they could, press the early speed. They could sit a nice stalking trip, and some of them might want to sit farther back and try to pick up all the pieces. So I think this is a race that certainly going to have to do a lot of analysis later on to kind of figure out who the top choice ends up being.
No, I mean, look, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile is always a fun race. Obviously won by Forte last year over the heavily favored Cave Rock, which I know that rubs a little bit of salt in the wound for a lot of people in the chat, i.e. Howard and Matt Miller. But this Juvenile on OddsChecker is very wide open. OddsChecker has both Locked and Timberlake at 5-1, tied for co-favoritism, and then City of Troy, Muth, and Prince of Monaco to bring up the next three spots at all of 6-1. So there's, I hate Jim Pilar sometimes, I swear. No, I'm just kidding, Jim. I'm just giving you crap. But this race just looks to be wide open, but it does. I'm assuming what it's going to be is a matchup between Locked and Prince of Monaco for the via favoritism. And I ultimately think it will be won by Prince of Monaco, but there's still just a lot of other game efforts and some game horses that are in here that could have a say when it comes post time. But the Juvenile, always a fun race. And guys, the last horse we're going to talk about here is the Turf Sprint. And this is a race that I'm going to have some real thinking to do, because not only do we have some very good U.S. horses, i.e. Caravel, the winner of last year at the highest price of the entire Breeders' Cup at 48-1. Coming back, although she did just lose this past weekend at Keeneland. So that I've granted by a nose, but still she did lose this past weekend. Just going to go through it. Motorius, who Simon O'Neill asked me about in the chat. I will bring that up. Motorius, Gear Jockey, who won that monster cluster race at Kentucky Downs. Living the Dream, who we just saw at Keeneland opening weekend, who ran a sub 20 to the quarter mile in that race. Brad Sell, who won the race at Royal Ascot. It's slipping my mind right now, but I'm going to bring it up. The King Stand Stakes, which is the Turf Sprint at Royal Ascot. Tony Ann, who just beat Caravel this past weekend. No Balls, Bad Beat Brian, Private Creed, Big Invasion, Roses for Deborah, who we haven't forgot about. Cogburn, One Timer, Aesop's Fables, who I don't know if he's going to come over here for this race. Beer Can Man, Jasper Crone, who we talked about before. Mikhail Yell for the Japanese connections, who is very good in his own right. Hamwood Flyer. There's just many different horses that could get in, and there's a lot of different ways that you can go. Living the Dream, I said it while we were at Santa Anita. This race is going to be a fast pace, but Living the Dream, they always say, UK horses don't break as well as the American runners. That was obviously proved wrong by Living the Dream. If she can get out far, I don't think she will, but she has the opportunity. Motorius, who Simon O'Neill asked what my thoughts were on Motorius. I have chased this horse these last 2 times, and last time I was finally able to get him home, I believe, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, in the Green Flash handicap at Del Mar, I was finally able to cash in on him. But he came over for the Twin Spires Turf Sprint, just got second. I mean, I really like Motorius. It's just a matter of, is he going to be good enough to, like, if Brad Sell's going to be in the middle, if he's going to come closing, although he hasn't won necessarily since then, but coming over from Newmarket and Carra, I mean, it's always a big ask. I mean, Arzak just won at Keeneland. Roses for Deborah, who's won back-to-back 100 buyers, winning very easily in the races that Roses for Deborah has run. It's just there's just so many different ways that we can go. Favoritism, I think, will not be below 3-1 in this race, and I think I don't like Caravel. She just lost this week. Like it's almost like I would have said Caravel would have most likely been the favorite in this race just by name recognition alone here in the States. But now I'm not too sure. I really think it'll be very lukewarm in the favoritism department. I could like Motorius. Brad Sell is another horse I'm leaning towards right now. Just going to have to see who gets in the race and who ultimately draws good posts, because as we all know, turf sprints, if you're caught out in the 12th hole, especially going 5 at Santa Anita, it's not going to be very easy from out there. So the post draw is going to mean a lot in this race, and judging by who gets into the race, the amount of speed is going to also mean a lot in a race like this. So we'll have to see, but obviously that'll come all the way up until Breeders' Cup time, which is almost 2 weeks away, which is unbelievable. Might I add, my flight leaves tomorrow morning, or tomorrow morning in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks and 1 day is when our flight leaves, Patrick, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But the turf sprint's always a great race. It's always a chaotic race and should produce value anywhere you look. As like I said, I don't think the favoritism is going to go heavy one way or another. But guys, that's going to conclude our Breeders' Cup conversation here. I'm going to let Charlie had some best bets that he wants to talk about for sports real quick, and then we'll end the show. He couldn't let me do it without, he held me at gunpoint. I couldn't not have sports.
That's not true.
I couldn't not have sports in here. But Patrick, what?
I just want to say one thing before Charlie goes on talks about his games. The amount of pressure Charlie has on his juvenile race is the same amount that Ryan Day has on Saturday. I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I decided to not really go, I guess, the best bets out. I just wanted to highlight the key games. I mean, this week in college football, I know there's multiple ranked teams matchups, but I think a lot of them are kind of like not that exciting. The main game of the week, obviously, being Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State is -4.5 is what I'm seeing right now. I would be grabbing that number as soon as you possibly can. Look, Penn State is the best defense in the country. I want to set the stage. Their defense this year is better than Georgia's defense was last year, but it's not the Georgia defense of 2 years ago where you literally couldn't score. Their running back, Singleton, whatever his name is, he's very solid, and their defense, again, is very elite. They have a very good offensive tackle. I want the Bears to draft him with Marvin Harrison and build around Fields. Their team is great. Now, why do I not like Penn State in this game? Number one, their receivers don't do anything for me. I've watched them in Big Ten play. They drop easy passes. They're not great. Number two, Drew Aller, their quarterback, he's not very good at throwing the football, and I'm not a complete expert at football, but I do know enough to know if your quarterback cannot throw the football, you tend to not win football games. If Ohio State sells out on the run, which I think they will struggle. Now, Ohio State's, their defense has improved. It's not perfect. It's not as good as Penn State's, but it's very solid, and their offense can beat you everywhere. They showed against Notre Dame that their run game can do something against a very strong physical football team. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the most unguardable player in college football. There is no way to stop him. They have the best receiving core in the country between them and Washington. There's just too much talent on this team. They've gone up against better Penn State teams before and covered bigger spreads. I think the Buckeyes might mess around in this game by 14-17. And I don't think Penn State's bad. I just don't know if they're going to score much. Their quarterback can't throw. He might throw 3 interceptions. Now, that was really it for college football.
They can't defend, so.
Wait, cool.
No, their defense has been solid. They shut down Notre Dame.
Penn State has a better offensive line and a better defensive line than you guys. And that's a fact.
I think they have the best defense in the country, and I think they have the best tackle. But your quarterback, if the quarterback cannot throw the football, it's a problem. I mean, look at the Notre Dame game. Notre Dame is a better defensive line, right? A better defense than Ohio State and a better quarterback, and Ohio State still won. Penn State has a significantly worse quarterback, and I'm not a Kyle McCord fan, but I think he's like an okay quarterback. But the Penn State quarterback, he's terrible. Drew Aller is not a good quarterback.
This Penn State team is way better than Notre Dame. I'll tell you that right now.
I don't know about that. Notre Dame looked very good against a very overrated USC team. I think Notre Dame might be back.
Let's not bring Notre Dame into this. Let's just talk about. Okay. I think Penn State. If Penn State wants to beat this team, this is the week, and I think they're better on both sides.
James Franklin can't beat He can't beat ranked teams. I love James Franklin.
Let's not make fun of the coach. Your coach talks about Lou Holtz. Come on.
Oh, I'm not a Ryan Day fan. I'm not a Ryan Day fan. All I'm saying is he's 1-8 against Ohio State. He couldn't get the job done with Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley in multiple years. They've had big leads at OSU and have blown them. I just don't see this game being very. I think they'll hang in early, but once their defense gets tired, the game is over because their quarterback.
You could be right. Yeah.
I mean,
moving on to NFL, because that was all I really saw. Big NFL matchups. I think this week is very exciting. You have Chargers, Chiefs in Kansas City, which is always an exciting game. I like the Chargers to cover. That game is always very, very close. You have the Ravens versus the Lions, which is always a dramatic game because of Justin Tucker making a 66-yarder to beat them. I think that game will be very exciting. I think Detroit could pull off the upset on the road. And then obviously you have the Eagles versus the Dolphins, the 2-5-1 teams. That'll be a very good showdown to see which team is for real and which team is a fraud. And to address you, Richard, the Saints the Saints defense is still as solid as I've said they've been. They shut down the Texans after they scored early. And their offense is not bad, but look, they have the worst play caller, which is actually proven from an analytics perspective in Pete Carmichael. It's actually statistically significant and shocking how awful he is at play calling. They have all the talent in the world at receiver and running back.
And Canada still exists as well.
Yeah, no, but he's somehow worse than Canada. Look, Derek Carr is a very mid at best quarterback. He's not very good. And the Saints offensive line is horrendous. Watching this game on tomorrow night against the Jaguars is going to make me want to gouge my eyeballs out. It's going to be the worst experience ever. The Saints offensive line, which has been abysmal, just ruled out their starting 2 offensive tackles. And I briefly celebrated because I thought, wow, these guys have been terrible anyway. And then I realized somehow the guys behind them are even worse than them. So I am terrified. The only hope I'm hanging on to is the fact that Trevor Lawrence is going to be banged up and might not even play. And if he doesn't play, the Saints will blow out Jacksonville because their defense will just have to do what they did against the Patriots. Shout out Patrick for picking the Patriots. And they're just going to get a few pick sixes against CJ Beathard or whoever it is to win that game. And yes, I know they're bad. It's a terrible time to be a
Trevor Lawrence with over 350.
He's hurt. He can't even move. His knee's messed up. I don't even know if he's play. He's a game time decision. His knee's banged up. He's in a brace. It's a bad time to be a pro football fan for me because Justin Fields is hurt. The Bears season's over, and I'm scared they might give up on a top 5 quarterback in the league. And the Saints are a dumpster fire. It's a rough season right now. How Ohio State's going to crush this week, Jim? Yes, I'll address that question because they have an offense and a defense. And no quarterback. That's how to address it. There you go.
Dude, I still stand. Ohio State doesn't have a quarterback either, but that's just my opinion.
He's better than Drew Aller. Come on, let's be real. I know he's not as good as J.J. McCarthy. I'm humble enough to admit it, but he's better than the biggest bum quarterback in the Big Ten besides whoever Iowa's quarterback is. Oh, and I have one upset pick of the week. Northwestern's going to beat Nebraska outright. That's my upset pick of the week. They're plus 11. They're going to beat Nebraska outright on the road. I can't hear Kyle. Is he muted or am I just lagging?
I didn't even touch my mic, so I don't know what the hell is going on. Did I touch my? Oh, whatever. Fuck it. I said I can't believe that's an upset. Like I get Northwestern's bad, but
they're coming off of a dominant 3-point win against Howard. I don't want to hear it at home.
Yeah, that's probably why they're underdogs. But one way or another, Charlie's rant is over, so that gives the green light to end the show. But I can't wait to see Penn State win by 10 this week, and I can't wait for Michigan to not give up another team in the red zone. But one way or another,
playing cakewalk teams.
Cakewalk teams. So have you, bitch.
We played Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, Schmotter Dame, Sleep Fest. Who cares? Anyway, that is going to be it for episode number 44 of Bettin N Boozin, covering Friday at Keeneland Late Pick 5, Breeders' Cup action, and of course Charlie's rant at the end of every single show. But for my co-hosts Patrick Kunsel, Charlie Freeman, and Noah Maher, this has been your host Kyle Roscoe, and of course crush your bets this weekend at Keeneland, this weekend in sports, and of course coming up at the Breeders' Cup. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good night.